Ooh, got a good video for you guys today. Hey guys, welcome to the video. My name is Ryan Stiles Harris, and in this video today, I have a very special guest. He is from Mooresville, North Carolina. His name is Justin. So without further ado, please, Justin, why don't you take a second and introduce yourself to the people.
Yeah, thanks for having me. My name's Justin Doyle, race RC. Competitively, I love the hobby, and it's like probably many of your viewers, I'm always checking out your YouTube channel and just all the other RC social media, and just kind of every day. That's all I think about is racing RC cars.
Nice. That's awesome. I can vouch for Justin. He is a very fast racer. Gave some good battles up there at Speed RC. Rest in peace. Um, Part of the reason why he's here today, and we also want to talk about some of the other topics in the RC industry that seem to be trending at the moment. People kind of wondering what's going on with certain aspects of it, and things that we can comment on, possibly talk about fixing, so on and so forth. So, what I want to start with you, Justin, if you don't mind, is speed. Kind of, what are your thoughts, just kind of right out of the gate with what went down there?
Yeah, obviously it's sad for us local guys here.
Mhm.
Speed was a great place to race. Yeah, I was there every Wednesday with a lot of my friends that I've met through the hobby and a lot of new people that got started racing. And being right here in kind of the epicenter of motorsports, it was really competitive. So Wednesday night, I mean, you had a lot of guys racing there that were fast. So it's probably the last 2 years have probably been the most competitive I've been in the hobby. I've raced in and out probably over the last 10 years or so, but these last two, I've definitely notched up a level from where I've been in the past, and it's due to just the competitiveness that was at that track. And I think overall, you look at speed when it was open, it was really positive for the hobby, positive for the RC local scene here. Just looking at the success they had with the INS finals and just to host that race, I mean,
Sure.
is a pretty top caliber place.
Probably most people would have nothing but like a positive experience from there because they were passionate about the hobby. They provided a top tier racing surface. And it from the one time that I was there, they worked incredibly hard at that event. And I can imagine that they worked hard the rest of the time at club races and so on and stuff like that. So we hate to say anything negative about them, but is there anything that you could maybe just observing like on the business side that maybe just wasn't done properly or thought out, that sort of stuff like long term or anything they could have done differently in your opinion?
Yeah, we see the social media comments. It's a tough crowd out there sometimes, but
Yeah.
the fact is they're not here now, right? So something obviously wasn't right, and I know Scott. I talked to Scott a little bit, and he said he just couldn't keep going on the way the track was, so he was possibly
Mm.
looking into carpet. But me personally, um, my observations would be, Scott and TJ, kind of the partnership of Speed RC. They both have careers as race car drivers. So
True.
that takes a lot from their life. A lot of commitments during the week, not just their events, but media commitments and everything else that goes with that. So I think it becomes hard to run a business if you don't have that manager there or that person that can just cover all bases. Now, not taken away from Scott's wife Amanda, because she did a terrific job, coming there, and
Mm.
the last year kind of just took the reins of everything and took care of the ordering, a lot of the Wednesday night race stuff and customer service stuff in the hobby shop, and she did a good job. But her again, I mean, she's a mother of three.
Mm.
She's got two young children, similar ages to mine, under 7 years old, and
Okay.
it's tough. I mean, I couldn't imagine the hours you got to put in there to make it work, and then also come home. And she also has her son Rex that's getting ready to start college. So I don't know. I guess what the point I'm trying to make here is I think as a human being, right, there's a point in your life where you got to make a decision. Do I want to pour my life into a business and try to make it work right now where it's possibly the numbers aren't working, but yeah, we could make it work, but it's going to take a lot of resources, right? Or do I want to
True.
step back and these are critical years in my child's lives that I want to be a part of? Like, I think that probably had a lot to do with it. And then, this one's maybe a little harsher, but I don't think they did the greatest job on the social media side. I know you
Yeah.
did your live video on social media, and
Yeah.
I mean, let's face it, today it's such a big part of any business, not just RC. Those are a couple things, but I think when I saw their press release on Facebook and the timing couldn't be any worse with the article Live RC did. I think a couple days prior, a week prior, um, the I think it was the Mike Garrison State of RC, or something like
Mm.
that. But I think it's always been a topic with this hobby is, oh, it's not healthy, these tracks are closing. But I think what people forget is, most businesses don't succeed past 5 years. I think it's like 80% of businesses fail, right? So
Yeah.
when are we going to say, hey, maybe this just wasn't a good business venture, not that the hobby's dead?
True. I like that distinction. I think that that's probably very important for people to distinguish in their minds that the business model of hobby shop and track, it seems to be a difficult business venture because you have to have the capital for the investment to get it up and running. You have to be able to maintain the track cost, staff if you have employees. And I know that I'm not a business mastermind, but obviously at the end of the day, the numbers didn't work. And so tracks like that are no longer. But this isn't anything new. We've people that have been in the industry for at least a decade or two, they've seen this happen dozens and dozens of times. Me personally, I saw it's one of my trophies right back here. It was a track in Las Vegas. I don't even remember the name. It was for the sixth annual Team Low C Championships. I flew from Florida to there. It was a brand new, like multi-million-dollar investment. They got it running, and within the first couple years, it was done. They just couldn't make it work. So I'm not saying anything against them personally. I just know that it is incredibly difficult to manage inventory, marketing, and grow a traditional like commerce style business. Now, I don't want to say that RC is just a bad business model and it doesn't work because obviously we have seen it work at places like OCRC. A long outstanding track that's local to me would be New Red Hobbies. That one I can speak to on a couple points that I think would be important for people that were thinking about opening up a track with a hobby shop. New Red Hobbies, they didn't seem to open up in a place where it's a very expensive like warehousing district. So even if I don't know if they own the building or not, but even if they didn't, I can imagine that the monthly rent or the cost of the building wouldn't be as expensive as a place like Speed RC. Speed
Mm-hmm.
RC was right next door to Richard Petty Motorsports, right?
Yeah,
It kind of
yeah,
so and all those other super fancy race teams are like basically their neighbors, and it was a very very nice facility and it was a pleasure to be there. But then going back to New Red, another thing that I noticed that Speed RC had was an incredible amount of inventory on hand in the shop. It was, in my opinion, it was a lot of product. And I know from experience with an online retail store that inventory, yes, in some concerns, it's a asset on your financial report, and then sometimes it's a liability if it doesn't move, right? You're just sitting there
yeah.
on dead stock. So what I think New Red does well is they have a hobby shop there, but they don't stretch themselves too thin with a gigantic amount of product. It seems to be like this balance of just the stuff we need to keep the local racers going. Do you have any thoughts or concerns on that?
Yeah. I I think that's it. I think it's tough. I think it's funny that you thought they had a lot of inventory. I feel like maybe they were. I think when they opened, they had probably too much. I think like the probably like when you were there for the finals. Um, yeah, I mean, I think they were on the medium side, but you go to like Beach RC, they have a lot of inventory. You would think the same thing, but Brent says their online sales are great. Like a lot of that stuff's picking up. So I don't know. I think any way you slice it, that what do you stock and what you not stock is kind of a tough game.
Mm,
I think originally when Speed opened, they wanted to really try to do well online, and that didn't quite pan out. Um, but like you said, successful models out there, OCRC, um, you know, Tacoma RC, Leisure Hours, New Red, RC Excitement is another one.
mm.
Um, Jason interviewed the owner there. I think it's Todd Anderson, and what a great story on like just how they've expanded into like they have a rock crawler track. They have outdoor tracks,
Oh wow.
indoor tracks. It's an amazing place, and it was a pretty good video. And then there's been some podcasts, they've done on the Radio Impound podcast where they've interviewed some of these owners. I think it's Mimi Wong, I think from the Nationals track. She's been doing this for a while, and just they've interviewed the Robert Black from OCRC, and a lot of these guys that have been around for a while, and I think they've had to accommodate to what the RC business is now. Like, they also had Jimmy Babcock on there, and he talks about how, if you buy a kit from him, they'll help you build it. They'll calibrate the ESC. They'll set up your radio. They'll give you
Mm,
a free race, free practice, and I think those are great things that hobby shops can do for some of these new people coming in. If you can't, you know, with the map pricing, they should be able to match prices. But okay, what else can we give the customer that you can't get online? Let's
sure.
solder their motor. Let's get everything set up. Show them how to set their charger. Just all those things that you're really selling them on the customer service. Um, so
That oh man, I couldn't agree more on the importance of that. Um, Something totally not related to RC, but when I first got into paintball, when I first got my setup, I had no idea what I needed as far as like all the equipment goes. But when I went down to my local shop to ask questions, I really didn't have any plan on buying anything. They did such a good job of educating me, and then they very casually were like, hey, if you see anything here that you want, we'll obviously offer it to you, give you a little bit of discount if you get the whole deal, and then we'll give you, a day at the field on us, and we'll get you all dialed in. And you could really tell that they just wanted to gain another member out on their field. And so the same thing is with RC or any hobby that you're into. If there is that local presence of that kind of source of education, knowledge, support, you really need to hit a home run almost any opportunity you have to gain that longtime member. Did you
yeah.
what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, absolutely. I think of just today, right? We went to Guitar Center. My son is 6 and he's showing like an interest in guitar. My wife has this dream for him to be able to play a musical instrument, right? So
Okay.
I could go online, right, and look up any guitar, find a guitar, starter guitar for a kid. But we went by there and he got to hold one, he got to feel it, he got to
Hmm.
play the strings, and there's a younger kid there, and he was telling me kind of how he got started. He was telling us about all the different guitars, and I was like, man, if I'm gonna buy one, I'm gonna buy it from him. He's gone out of his way. He's knowledgeable. My son Easton's there holding what he wants to get. Like, why would I mean? I know people do this, but why am I gonna go home and buy one online? And I think it's the same thing with RC. And a perfect example is a common friend of ours, Ben Warner, who I work with. Speed opened, and I was excited when they first opened because we hadn't had an indoor track in the area in a while. So he's like, "Hey, I want to go. I want an RC race. What do I need?" So I made a list, and he's like, "Well, I want to see it." So we went to Speed RC. We saw that stuff,
Mm.
and I think the new people, and this is stealing right from that Jimmy Babcock podcast. He said, you know, if someone's getting ready to drop $800 to get started, most of the time they want to feel and touch what they're gonna buy, and
Sure.
I think that's kind of really critical to places that have a track and a hobby shop. You know, if the new people come in and they're excited and they want to do this, but then you don't have it there and you got to send them online, or, you know, they want to buy some. It's just it's so critical to have that stuff going.
You know, a very interesting point. It kind of goes along with what you're saying. I was talking to the team manager for Trinity, Kevin Abbott, recently, and he brought up a really interesting point. He was talking to me about that video I did a little while ago about the social media thing online and the importance of it. And he said that he was initially going to disagree with me. I was like, what? Come on, man. But then he said that he agrees because he listened to my case and he said, yeah, obviously online marketing, it's very important. But then he said another interesting aspect that I didn't really think of because I'm just so involved in the hobby myself that you kind of forget what this hobby is to a spectator. When you race at an outdoor track that's close to a local park or local businesses, something that people can see from like a main road on like a big race day and you got lots of tents and trailers out there, stuff going on, guy over the loudspeaker, it draws in a crowd of people. I can remember when I was racing at Lake Park back at the Losi Champs in the early 2000s that people would just kind of stroll on in and walk by my pit table, be like, hey, what is this? What's going on? I think that
Yeah.
there's kind of a really interesting give and take to the whole focus of indoor racing because everybody's inside a building.
Mm.
You don't see it. You don't really have any of those spectators that you can hopefully attract to the sport or the hobby. What have you ever thought about anything like that?
Yeah, I've actually thought about that. I think what's cool, like places like Beach RC, and it looks like Hobby Action in Arizona is similar, is the perimeter of the track is open. So, you know, you see people start to crowd around the track, right?
Okay.
And they can see everything. And I don't know, the insurance reasons, this may be a problem, but I think it'd be so cool to have like a catwalk above the track too. So you can have your people on the
Yeah.
bottom, you know, watching, your people on the top looking down, because like at speed, you just ran out of room. Like when the finals were there, and even some club nights when it was, you know, a lot of people that they're just you couldn't see a whole lot once a lot of people got there. And you know, that's maybe a little bit different topic because they're renting and you do the best you can. But
Sure.
I think there is a lot of spectators at some of these big events, and just the racing itself. You know, a lot of it gets really exciting, especially with the 17.5 stuff. And um, you know, I just you know kind of going back to that article. You know, is RC dying? You know, it seems like this time of year, every year, these things, you know, spark up. And I personally don't see it. I mean, you look at how big 17.5 class is. You look at some of the companies that have spawned off of that type of racing, right? I mean, it's a great time to be in RC. There's hardly any maintenance with the brushless stuff, the lipo batteries. Um, you know, any hobby you do today, you're gonna have to fork out some cash in the beginning. I think you know if everybody's really honest with themselves, whether it's their kids' travel baseball team or whatever, you know things are expensive today. I mean
Yeah,
there's not a
true.
lot of cheap hobbies that are fun, at least not that I've found. But
So as a racer, I think that it's pretty obvious RC is not dying. There's lots of racing series going on literally around the
yeah.
world. Manufacturers are still pumping out new products. There's still sold out races at just about like every 8 scale event that's like a national or regional or a annual event. 10 scale is pretty healthy nationwide. Um, so I don't
Hmm.
think that I would say RC is dying. There are companies out there that are doing very well. We're seeing good support at places like this. Uh, but I think that now more than ever, it may be difficult for traditional businesses to thrive. like we've been talking about. I think it's super important that if somebody takes on the responsibility to go into the financial venture of owning a track or a hobby shop, that they really got to dial in on stuff that we're talking about, the social media, the customer service, all that stuff
Hmm.
is going to be tremendously important to get past that, what was it, 5 year mark of the average business
Yeah,
life?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I agree. And I think you got to be creative. Like the first time I saw this idea was at Beach RC. They did birthday parties for kids, and I think, OCRC has done that for a while. But I think that's a great idea. I mean, you don't have kids, but kids' birthday parties are expensive. They're expensive, and
Okay.
um, I mean, you're talking like $300 easy, for like 10 kids
Oh,
or
jeez.
something. But yeah, so, and what fun is that, right? You have like 10 rentals or something, and you get kids in there for a birthday party, and you make it fun with music or whatever. Man, I'd love that when I was a kid, if that was around. So I think that's one thing they can do. I think, I was thinking like, we're looking into summer camps right now, not for a place for my kid to go, but just for something for him to learn. Like, they have an electronics camp. They have summer camp for everything, and
Sure.
I think Pacific Coast Hobbies, they're another one that's kind of been around for a while. They're on social media a lot. They do a lot of cool things, but I think they have something similar to this. But why not do like a summer camp where, you get some people they want to buy a car or whatnot, and maybe they don't even buy a car. Maybe it's a camp and it includes how to build one, and then you go out and race it, and you teach them
Mm.
some racing skills. I mean, gosh, that'd be so awesome. And I think that's what I wish some people focused on a little more is, um, you know, if you really think the hobby's dying, like what can we do, right? Like uh, the last race at Palmetto, that Palmetto Classic at Beach RC, I did some interviews with some like father son, and I got to thinking, how did I get in this hobby? How did you get in this hobby? Well, it's through our
Mm.
dad. It's through our dads, right?
Yeah.
What a great father son hobby to do. And it really is a family sport. Like other forms of racing, you can't. Not everybody can take part, right? It's normally one driver, and everybody's kind of watching that driver. But in RC,
True.
everybody could race if they wanted to, and it's a really good hobby that teaches you a lot when you're young too. Just using your hands and the mechanical side of it, and um, you know, and you touched a little bit about the spectator part of it. And I always tried to make sure I was at the end of my row, kind of where the traffic was, for a couple reasons. One, it was close to the driver's stand, but it is also, you're right there in that path. So people would always come up and talk to
Mm.
me and ask me like, "Oh, who paints your bodies?" And you
Sure.
know, what motor are you running? Stuff like that. And I think now that I look back, I probably didn't even do as good of a job. I wish I would have went out and reached out to new people a little more. But it's I think it's owning it, right? Like, what can I do? You're making these videos, which is a great thing. You look at the comments and you see people that can relate to you, that are getting back into the hobby or
Mm.
new to the hobby, and they're thanking you for making these videos. So I think it's a great thing. I think the social media is a good thing. I think, like you said, we have these series that go across the nation, like the J Concepts indoor series, that they all sell out. So, if it's so dead, I don't think that would happen.
Sure. No, I agree with you wholeheartedly. So there's another aspect to this whole discussion of the health of the industry. And what a lot of people keep bringing up is, oh, back in the day, it was so difficult to be sponsored when it really meant something. Nowadays, everybody's sponsored by somebody. Um,
Yeah.
did you have
Yeah.
any thoughts, pros or cons, or anything that you wanted to say about that area of the
Yeah,
discussion?
the sponsorship topic is kind of a hot topic, and I think it has been for a while. And I think maybe some of it's valid of people not buying in the hobby shop, but um, you know w- as people that are sponsored, and there's more of them. I am sponsored, and I'm very proud to be associated with the sponsors that I have. I think it's important to realize what is our responsibility as a sponsored driver. You know, like we were saying, reaching out to these people, help getting new people
Mm.
involved. If you see somebody at the track, you need to go help them. These are all things that are healthy for the hobby. And then when you think about getting these new people involved, that helps the hobby shop, because obviously these people aren't going to be getting discounts from sponsors. They're going to be going to the hobby shop.
Sure.
But I think that is the kind of the flip side. That is a positive side of being sponsored. Another thing is, you know, yeah, it used to be really hard to get sponsored, but it's also maybe a little bit of motivation for new people, because okay, maybe it is a little easier now. What does that mean? And to me, it's really opened my eyes to these Facebook groups that you're in as on the team. Some of the videos and stuff, and it really becomes like a community more than
Oh,
anything.
true.
And oh man, you learn so much. You meet so many new people, and it's so awesome. It's it's not just about it. Honestly, the 50 off and the stuff like that, that's great, but it's so much more valuable just because of the resources and the people you meet. And I gotta believe that as there's more people being sponsored, that means that that trickles down to other people as far as the information and the help, because you know, we're just trying to get more people involved in the hobby, really.
Sure. I agree. I really like that point of, if a brand is doing their due diligence, they're going to bring in drivers that are going to help promote the industry. If they're not, then shame on them. But if they are, and most of the time they do, uh, yeah, I can think of almost every race that I've had at a Super Cup series. Um, I'm honestly excited when people ask me questions about, hey, I got this Trinity motor, and can you look at my end bell? Like, is it close? And I'll jump all over those opportunities because, like you said, the community aspect of this whole hobby is what makes it truly great, in my opinion. Because not everyone's going to be a national champion, world champion, whatever. So we got to figure out a way to enjoy the days where we're mid pack, maybe not doing so great, but at least we're excited to see all those people that we see once a week, a couple times a month, that sort of thing.
Yeah. And I was just thinking about this. It goes back to your comment of like inventory. Well, I'll tell you right now, I'm a TLR driver, but there's times I was at speed, I broke something, I needed a part, but they didn't have it. Like I was going to buy it
Sure.
then. I needed it. But they didn't have it, so I couldn't buy it. So, you know, it's kind of a catch 22, I guess. But yeah, the just thinking back to last year when I wasn't sponsored, talk about an ambassador for their sponsor. Like Alan White kind of really helped me along at Beach when I met him the first time, and really answered a lot of Facebook Messenger questions, and just really helped me get the right motor for stock racing. And I was like, wow, this is awesome. Like I've been involved in other forms of motorsports, and people really aren't approachable. They're not gonna tell you what they're running, and I think that's another great thing about RC is everybody's there to really help you, and it's just a matter of you kind of taking that first step to ask the question and ask for help.
I don't want to make it sound like everyone just, you race an RC car, here's a sponsorship. It's really not that.
No.
Like, you actually have to show that you have some sort of racing program, some sort of consistency, and they typically have to like you as a person.
Yeah.
I've I've talked to team managers that they kick people off of the team because they're not being an asset to the team. So it's like, it's not just a free for all with this whole sponsorship deal. I think
Yeah.
that's grossly overinterpreted. One thing that I really like about when people get sponsored is they get excited about the hobby. They like take their vocal level to a whole new level. They start doing race reports frequently. They start taking videos. They start doing a lot of different things that they weren't doing before. And so, in a way, this sponsorship deal that they have now gotten it's promoting the hobby in a sort of direct slash indirect way. Like, do you agree, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I do agree, and I think maybe that was also one of the motivations to maybe giving more, right? Because maybe I would have to look at it, but maybe it trended with social media, right? Because now you have all these people on social media. It's another way to get your product out there more, and most of the
Hmm.
people that are going to be buying the product are going to be buying them through retailers or whatnot. One thing I'm glad you really brought up was, it's not like everybody has these sponsorships, and I was thinking about that myself, and I was looking at like the team pages that you're given access to once you're on these sponsorship deals, and
Hmm.
you know it's not like there's 1,000 people on there. It's like maybe
No,
200, and we're talking about the whole
sure.
country, right? And so I think people really blow that out of proportion, and like you said, it's not like there are a few maybe people that are sponsored and that they don't make the upper mains, but the majority of the people that are sponsored are making the A main at some of these bigger regional events. So
Sure.
I think it's justified. I think like you said, it's not just they're not just handing them out. You look at Jason Rona, you look at you know TLR and Associated and Brent Thelke. These people aren't just gonna sponsor anybody. You kind of got to have the total package. Your stuff's got to look good. It's got to
Hmm.
be maintained. You got to carry yourself well on the track. It's they're not just handing them out.
True. And I think that one of the other aspects of this hobby is the issue of retention, right? Um, with this mindset of, oh, are we in this downturn because I've seen so and so and so and so say they're leaving the hobby. These people that raced a couple years ago, they're not here anymore. It is just one of those things that it's a volatile in its attendance. It always has been. That's not anything new. But I think that what you're saying about this community that's built, I think that there is a much stronger positive with this whole sponsorship deal. Um, they tend to keep guys interested. For example, one of my fellow Trinity teammates that I was just with at Super Cup, he was in the B main and he was beating himself up. He was so bummed that he didn't qualify for the A because he was fast enough. He just made a few mistakes here and there, and we were all pitting together right next to the Trinity area, and we were really working on the car together, and it really just became this. It's not this weekend isn't just about me. Like I'm totally invested in his weekend too, and we're gonna both do
Mm,
everything that we possibly can together to make this thing work. And I
yeah.
don't know that that would have been the case if we weren't. I didn't become friends with him through being sponsored teammates. So I think that the whole issue of sponsored drivers are bad, it's ruining everything. I really think that's grossly misinterpreted.
Yeah, yeah, I do too. I mean, thinking back at, we keep talking about OCRC. I gotta believe there's a lot of sponsored drivers that race
Sure,
there,
yeah.
and they're still around.
Yeah, I think that all the stuff that we talked about today has been really good. Thank you, Justin. I appreciate you running through all these points with me, going through, giving your insight on Speed RC, letting the people know that it was an awesome facility backed by an awesome group of people. And then I really like that we ran through the importance of social media, especially for those that are jumping into this venture. Um, the importance of connecting with newcomers, whether they were observing a race or they found us on social media. How are we pulling those people in? And I do think that if brands are utilizing their sponsored drivers correctly, then they are largely responsible for connecting with those newcomers to the sport. Did you have any other questions, comments, things that you want to throw out to the people?
Nah, I mean, thanks for having me.
Yeah,
I'm not an expert, but I feel like I am a student of the hobby. When anytime you consume so much information every day about RC, you start to have I start to have some ideas and see some trends. And I think I would just back you up on what you said. You know, if you are a sponsored driver, you know, create a YouTube channel, Facebook, whatever. You know, just get out there, or just in person. You know, help as many people as you can, and we'll keep this going. You know, I think it's healthy. It's gonna be as healthy as we make it. And
Mm.
you know, I think if it's really easy to get wrapped up in the negativity and everything that's out there online. And yeah, just Speed RC, it was a great place, and I'm very appreciative to what they brought to the area. And I think they got people excited. And I think anytime, you know, you get this many people excited, there's gonna be another one in the area, I'm sure. And I can't wait for that time. Until then, I'll be at Beach RC racing. And I think just the last thing, if you know, I have a website, Race City RC. It kind of started out, you know, just being highlights of my personal racing, but it's going to change here pretty shortly. And I want to put together like a page of just kind of everything we talked about. There's a lot of podcasts and resources that people can listen to if they own a track, or maybe want some ideas. So I'll put together a page. It'll be racecityrc.com slash state of RC, and maybe you can put that in the comments and people can
Yeah,
go
I'll
to
link
that and
it
check
down
it
in
out.
the description below.
Yeah.
That's what that first link there is for you guys. It'll take you guys straight to his website there. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Justin, for coming on. I hope to have you again here in the future. Guys, I hope that you enjoyed having him here. If you have any questions for me or Justin, please go ahead, drop them down below, and we'll do our best to answer any questions you may have or refer you to someone much smarter than me. And then, as always, like the video if you haven't, subscribe if you're not, and I will see you in the next one.